Hello? I don't have time to feel like this. What day is it? Is it day 5 today? I think I started on Monday. I should be keeping track. Hello and welcome to my little daily Facebook video greeting, and I'm calling them Faction Hacks. You like that? Because I am a big fan of coaching around thoughts and coaching around action. So I'm going to call it Faction, and I'm loving just showing up every day and sharing a tiny little, hello Marinda! I love that you're showing up on a very frequent basis. It's awesome. Sharing these faction hacks, just these little tiny ideas and switches, and maybe helping you see your own thinking and your own projects and your own overwhelm in a different way, because that's what I'm really good at. I can very easily kind of see things in a very different way than you can, and I'm hoping that by showing up here every day and giving you these little pieces of advice, wisdom, can help you kind of see your own stuff in a different way too. A couple little pieces of business I love to attend to. Feel free to share. You can share anytime you want by clicking the little share button. Feel free to like and follow along on the page so you don't miss one of these videos. I think they send out little notifications. And please leave your comments and questions. I think it's down below. I don't know, it's either down below or to the right or to the left, depending on where you're watching. I am following up throughout the day. Sometimes these ideas take a little bit of space to marinate, meaning you show up and you watch and they kind of come in here, but then throughout the day the ideas kind of sink down, and I really invite you to come back and share what comes up for you, because today's video is actually in response to some questions that came up in following yesterday's video. Now, yesterday's video was all about kind of this feeling piece of the model and of our lives, and a few questions came in that I wanted to just address directly today. So again, leave your questions in the comments because I'm following up on them and I will answer them in upcoming videos as long as you let me know what's on your mind. So the first question that came through yesterday was, actually I'll read it here, what do you do when you don't know where the feeling is coming from? I feel like I get very overwhelmed and anxious when I can't identify the source. So it causes me to feel even stronger emotions because I don't know where they come from or how to kind of get to the root of it. There was a second question that came in that was very similar, which was, how can I access the thoughts behind the feelings? So this is a common step. This definitely, I do this work on myself all the time. So if I'm having an uncomfortable feeling that just is like that red flag, like we talked about yesterday, hey, thanks for the likes. I kind of like to say to myself, all right, this feeling that I'm experiencing is an inside job. It's coming from me, and it's coming from some thinking that's happening in the background, some white noise, some story, some belief that I'm just very much attached to right now and holding on to. So there are a couple of things you can do with that. The first is, I find that there's just a lot of relief in knowing that the feeling that I'm experiencing has nothing to do with my life. It has nothing to do with my circumstances. It has nothing to do with my decisions, with my world, with anything outside of me. And it only is just a reflection of thinking that's happening in that moment. And thinking moves. Our thinking changes all the time. It's like a river. It's like the ocean. It's like the weather. Thinking comes up and it goes down, and it comes up and it goes down. So when you're having that emotion that you're kind of like, where is this coming from? I get wanting to know where it comes from, what the thoughts are behind it, but separate from that is just sitting with the understanding and the trust, like, okay, even if I don't figure out where this is coming from, I know it's not going to last. And I'm just and I know where it's coming from, and I know not to judge it, and I know not to try and force it out of me, right, to swim and to dive through the waves, but to just kind of relax and float and let it be. So that's the first thing. If you really want to dive into, okay, what's the thought behind the feeling? There are a couple of ways to do this. I find that writing things down very much helps. So let's say you're feeling angry. Like, I'm just feeling so angry. You pull out a piece of paper and you ask yourself, what is this feeling of anger telling me? right? What is this feeling of anger telling me? And you just start writing. Oh, I'm so angry about what happened yesterday. I'm so angry about what's happening at work. I didn't think that Sarah was going to say this, and then she said it, and it just made me feel so bad because I'm doing a ton of work all the time and Sarah's not doing anything. So why is she calling me out? Okay? You write this whole story in front of you. And then what you can do is you can look at it and you can almost highlight what the circumstances are. And everything that's not a circumstance is a thought. And that can be really cool because then you realize that what we're kind of saying is real, is true, is a circumstance, is actually just a story. So writing your story out can be very enlightening. A second thing you can look for is anytime you say, I feel like. If you're saying, I feel like, you're not actually describing a feeling, you are telling me your thoughts. So feel like is code for I think that. So that's another little thing to watch out for. Notice anytime, and you can always try talking to yourself, or you can talk to a friend and describe to them what's going on, and you will start to catch yourself saying, oh, I feel like my boss just doesn't appreciate me at work. That's a thought. Okay, so those are two kind of little hacks, tricks to identify what the thinking is behind the feeling, is to start writing it out and to then go back into what you've written and separate the circumstances from the thoughts, and to just notice how you're speaking about your circumstances. And that's why coaching can be so cool, because when I'm listening to you tell your story, I'm listening from a totally different place. I can very, very easily pick out the circumstances from the thoughts. And that, in and of itself, and noticing that and being receptive to that for yourself, can really be a game changer. Once you've identified the thoughts, I love to use something called The Work by Byron Katie. I'll put it over here on the side. I'll put her questions on the side. Okay, Byron Katie is amazing. Her process and her model is incredibly simple, but very powerful. Now, if there's a thought that's coming up for you, if there's a belief, if there's a story that's just like constantly coming in and you're getting stuck on and it's creating all this emotion, doing the work around that thinking can be a game changer. There are 4 questions that she asks. She does a much better job. Hi, Alethea. She does a much better job of walking you through it and explaining it than I do. This is her life's work. She hosts amazing live events that are all over that you can always attend. So I would advise you to go in and take a look at her, especially those 4 questions, because when you identify a thought that is just a very powerful one for you, applying the work to it and asking those 4 questions can the picture I have in my mind is if your thought is a meteor or an asteroid in space that's attacking your brain, doing the work on that thought is like shooting a hot laser into that meteor until it explodes, and then it no longer is going to have impact. Okay, so that's a great tool for kind of when after you kind of identify what the thoughts are that are really sticking with you and you're having a hard time letting go of, applying the questions of the work to that can be really awesome. Hi, Emma! Awesome! It's so good to see you. I've been thinking about you. Okay, the other question that came through was, or just more of a statement, was, I don't have time for these emotions. I'm too busy to be angry. I love that. So my thoughts on that are, first, just realizing that emotions are going to happen, right? The waves are going to get choppy and then they're going to come down. The waves are going to get choppy and then they're going to calm down. And the best thing we can do in the face of that is to stop trying to fight it or change it or judge it or think it's bad or think it's good. Hi, Kara. Good morning. But to just expect it, much like we expect the weather to change and to come and go, and to know that you are not the waves. You are not the weather. Okay, you are the sky. You are this relaxed being that can kind of float on the waves rather than try and change them. So knowing that and having this better understanding of where those emotions and those feelings are coming from, and that it's coming from your own thinking, what we can start to do is start taking it a little less seriously. We can kind of look at our emotions from this detached place and say, all right, I'm feeling angry. and I can still take action. I'm feeling, sorry, I see all these little like hearts and likes go through it. It's so sweet and awesome. And I think that's Miranda out there, and I'm loving it. Thank you. um, a question that I like to ask sometimes when I'm working with someone and they tell me how they're feeling is, and it can feel kind of weird in the moment, but I say, so what? Like, I know you're feeling a certain way. I know you're not feeling motivated, or you're feeling discouraged, or you're feeling angry. And better understanding where those feelings are coming from and that they're not permanent and they're not going to last, you can continue doing the things that you want to do despite having those feelings. And this is where it gets really interesting, and this was kind of a second piece to the puzzle, is there's a very delicate wobble between thinking and action, right? How we think creates our action. But I also love exploring this idea that taking action can actually reversely impact our thoughts or reversely impact our feelings. So if you're feeling something that you're like, I don't want to be feeling this for much longer, I don't like it, it's stopping me, it's keeping me from doing something, I'm a big fan of saying, all right, let's turn that into something that you can do. Rather than just sitting still, what's something that can be done that can either more quickly move you out of that feeling or can have that like reverse impact on the feeling and play with that wobble between the two. I'm not sure if that's making sense. Perhaps you've experienced it yourself where you're feeling a certain way, you're feeling really stuck, you're feeling unmotivated, you're feeling angry, but despite those feelings, you go out and you do something, and as a result of that doing, suddenly you realize that you feel better. I hope that's making sense. I would love to know just what's coming up for you. Feel free to share them in the comments, share any questions. Again, today's conversation was inspired by questions from yesterday, so yeah, that's what I got today. I'd love to know what you think, or I'll stick around for another minute or two if anyone wants to chime in live or ask anything or have anything to share. But yeah, that's what I've got for you around the feeling piece. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to talk about tomorrow. I've got a whole list of potential things. But yeah, today's conversation was inspired by yesterday. And that's a fun piece about taking action too, is you never know where it's going to lead. Maybe that'll be tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow we'll talk about taking action, being willing to make mistakes, and what that actually looks like in our lives, and what if things don't work out like you think they're going to work out, or like you think they are. So, all right. Anything to note? I hope you all have a great weekend planned. Happy Memorial Day. I appreciate those of you who showed up live. And for those of you who are following along afterwards, again, feel free to leave your comments below. Also, really quick, the invitation stands. If any of this is hitting you and landing and you want kind of some direct conversation about it, you are invited to have a complimentary strategy session with me. There are no strings, but some of these ideas are really cool when we hear them, but implementing them, especially when we're in the thick of things, can feel very challenging, and that's where my work comes in, is to kind of help you implement this stuff very directly into your circumstances and the things that you're working on. So I'll share that link on the side, and I'll go ahead and I'll pin it so you can come and sign up for that whenever you're ready. Okay. Thanks, everyone. I hope you have a fabulous day, and you're awesome.